everybody. Happy Friday. We did 3 live streams this week. We did it. Huzzah. Hooray. And some of you said you're tired of talking about Superman because it is a very difficult space. So we're getting a little bit of a break today, but don't worry, we're still going to talk a little DC. So we have 3 great stories to go over. In fact, one story got bumped. I was going to talk about Robert Eggers doing A Christmas Carol, but I guess now I'll wait for him to cast Ebenezer Scrooge or some of the other roles. Or maybe we'll talk about it next week if I need a space for a story. Justin, welcome for your first stream as a member. And Devin, thank you so much for gifting a membership. That's very kind of you. I'm happy with how my Superman videos went, Atomsphere. Thank you. It's a difficult space, you know, and I feel I can see the likes, and I can see the likes on the tweet, and I know that a lot of people agree with me. And so some of you said you were happy that I was kind of like saying stuff and taking the heat that goes with it, so that some of you didn't have to, and that kind of like gave me some better perspective on it. So it was very nice of you. And, you know, I think the only thing that bothers me is when people claim that I'm being very negative about the movie, when I've gone out of my way to be, I think, very positive on many elements. I went out of my, I mean, I didn't go out of my way because I honestly believed it, but I said some very nice things about it in my breakdown yesterday. Hey, Drago. But I mean, I think some people just come in and leave a comment and don't even check the video if that's what their agenda is. You know, whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think I've tried to be, and also I even said the other day that I thought it would beat out Fantastic Four, at least in terms of the opening weekend. You know, I know, and I know that you guys know that I'm very fair and honest, and that's all that matters. I think a lot of times these social media discussions bring out in outside groups that are motivated for different reasons and don't know me, or have a very skewed vision of me based because they've only seen things on social media. Mika, I have the volume turned all the way up, so I apologize if you're having an issue. I did make sure to turn my volume all the way up before I started. Okay, so we've got 3 good stories to discuss today. I'm excited about it. This one certainly made a big splash on social media. So we're going to start with that. You guys are very sweet. Thank you. All right, so let's get started. And of course, as always, for the final 10 minutes of the stream, you can ask me anything. Madav, you don't know what Spaceballs is. Oh my God. Story number 1. Boop. Oh, poor Josh Gad. When I went to see Just in Time for Mother's Day, who was in the audience? That's the new Jonathan Groff show. But Josh Gad was in the audience when I went to see it. And during the intermission, me and one of my family members went up and said and introduced ourselves. Well, we just said we really liked his work and then left him alone. But it was great. It was really it was fun to see him. I'm a big Josh Gad fan. So if you've never seen Spaceballs, so back in the day, Mel Brooks made a lot of spoof movies. You know, like a scary movie like the Wayans Brothers today. Well, that was Mel Brooks back in the day. Josh Gad was very nice, but he didn't really want to be bothered, which I understood very much. So that's why we were like politely said, we love your work, and then left him alone. Because he was just trying to have a nice Mother's Day with his family as well. So Mel Brooks used to make all these great comedies, and he's done incredible comedies. He did Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, which is a Western spoof. He did Spaceballs, which made fun of Star Wars. And also he did History of the World, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. But he was really, really successful. Robin Hood Men in Tights, that's right, Paul. He just has done a lot of movies. I think his style of humor is not the same as people's humor today. And I think that's one of the problems there is in updating. I mean, I still think he's very funny, but I think it's more of a niche taste. Like when Mel Brooks was making these movies originally, they were like the Wayans Brothers spoofs, the scary movie spoofs and stuff like that. I actually went to see at the Paris Theater here in New York City Young Frankenstein a couple of months ago to a really almost sold out crowd. Movie holds up. It was so great. But I think that these are, you have to like classic film to appreciate these classic comedies. But what was very funny about the movie Spaceballs, so let me get my arrow here. So it was announced yesterday they're making a sequel. And now what everybody thought was very funny about this was that they actually made a joke about potentially making a sequel in the original film, where they said it would be called The Search for More Money. And so everybody thought that that was both hilarious, ironic, and maybe sad that that had actually come to pass in real life. I think a lot of us are kind of excited about another Spaceballs movie, but at the same time, it's like what they were making fun of, they actually ended up doing. But I agree. Who said that about the teaser trailer? Paul, the teaser trailer was hilarious. I urge you to go check it out. It's the Spaceballs 2 teaser trailer, and they just did a real referendum on what Hollywood has become. And they talked about, the Boys is an interesting comparison, Faye. That would be interesting if maybe they could get a little edgier in their humor like that. But it was so funny. It was so funny. What's this comment I missed? Anthony says, you're gonna see this in theaters? They didn't verify if it was going to be in theaters or not, or if it was going to be something that went directly to Prime Video. I guess they're going to wait and see how it turns out. But the announcement trailer did such a good job making fun of Hollywood today, saying for instance, they took a shot at DC. They said since the original Spaceballs has come out, there have been 23 Marvel movies, or whatever it's been. I think it's actually been in the 30s. And then they said 2 attempts at doing DC, and they were just really, another funny thing they said, they really took a lot of shots at Warner Brothers. They said there have been 8 Harry Potter movies, and then there's now a series being announced that is going to remake those same movies. And you were like, I don't know what to tell you. That's pretty funny. But yet this is what people want to see. People vote with their dollars. But the only thing that makes me a little bit nervous is that History of the World is in part 1. It was originally just supposed to be a part 1 that never had a part 2. And it was hilarious. And in fact, that might be my favorite Mel Brooks movie, at least when I saw it. I haven't rewatched it a long time ago. Oh, that's right. They made fun of Robert Downey Jr. coming back. It was really, really funny. But History of the World Part 2 came out 2 years ago, and as you can see, it did not work out. But this is from a different creative team. This was from Nick Kroll and Ike Barinholtz, who's done a wonderful job with the studio with Seth Rogen, but perhaps Seth Rogen is the magic ingredient there. But this sequel was on Hulu, and it was awful. Wanda Sykes was also heavily involved, and it just did not work. It was a shame because it had so many great comedic stars in it. They did a good job assembling a cast, but it just wasn't funny. I think that was my biggest reaction when they announced this yesterday. I was like, oh boy, this better be funny. They better have the jokes. It's very hard to be funny. Mika, Seth MacFarlane is a good idea. I think that the new Naked Gun is going to do extremely well, which is from Seth MacFarlane and the Lonely Island guys. I think just at least Akiva Goldsmith. But I think that, they would be a good choice to do Spaceballs. Probably, I worry, maybe a little bit better than the people who are adapting it. I think comedy today needs to have a little bit of edge. And I don't know if they're going to, Akiva Schaffer. Thank you, Mika. I don't know if they're going to, Akiva Goldsmith, isn't that the screenwriter who always writes really bad stuff? Mel Brooks is not directing. Leave him alone. He's like almost 100, but he is going to play Yogurt, which gives you an idea of some of the comedy in the film. Yes, as he did in the original movie, Mel Brooks will play Yogurt, who is actually a take on Yoda. And so that's kind of what that's the jokes. I'm not sure who's directing Atmosphere. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's not a really big comedic name, but I do think that Brian Grazer and Ron Howard are producing, along with Josh Gad. So let's talk about Josh Gad. This is a huge get for Josh Gad. It's incredible for him. I mean, he's Olaf, and now he's in Spaceballs. I mean, oh my God, it's amazing. I mean, again, it better be funny, or else he's going to be the face of a flop. but it's still a really big deal for him to be front and center here. He's going to be one of the leads in the film. Actually, it makes me wonder if he'll be taking over the John Candy role. John Candy sadly passed away, and he played Chewbacca, as you can see. I believe he could talk, though. And, because I was wondering who Josh Gad would be, and he'd actually be very well cast in that role. Because they're bringing back Bill Pullman and Daphne Zuniga, I think that's how you pronounce her name. They're bringing them back, but they're going to be older, and they have a child who will be played by Louis Pullman. That's right. Bill Pullman got his actual kid in there, nepo babying like never before. Louis Pullman, of course, now Sentry for Marvel. So I think that'll help this go down a little bit easier. And he's going to play their son. I think his name is going to be like Stardust or something. That actually sounds pretty cool to me. We got a little ahead of ourselves. We didn't talk about Rick Moranis just yet. So let's talk about Rick Moranis first, and then we'll get back into this. But that's who I bet you Josh Gad is playing. So Rick, because, John Candy so tragically passed away. All right, so Rick Moranis. This was a really big deal. Oh, you're right. It is probably a take on Star-Lord, Mr. Andrews. That's funny. It would be wonderful if they made fun of all kinds of space movies these days. That would be funny. That's a great catch, Mr. Andrews. All right, so Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis very sadly had to retire from acting because his wife passed away. So he was spending a lot of time taking care of her. And then once she passed away, he decided to dedicate his life to raising his children because he became their only parent. It's a really beautiful, sad story. He lives on the Upper West Side here in New York City, right where Ghostbusters was filmed. And he was also recently in the news because, maybe a year or so ago, because he was attacked on the Upper West Side when we were having some attacks here, near the park. And it was very scary. But, Rick Moranis has really, as we have this nostalgia craze in Hollywood, Rick Moranis has really resisted it. They invited him back for Ghostbusters all the time. Oh, that's right. He was in the Ryan Reynolds Mint commercial, but he's really, really stayed away from coming back. Thank you, Bubbles. He's turned down 2 Ghostbusters remakes at this point. The last one had all the original Ghostbusters in it, and Sigourney Weaver, even in a cameo, but Rick Moranis would not return. So the fact that Rick Moranis will come back for this is not only a really, big feather in its cap, but it's a real, smack in the face to Ghostbusters. I think all the Ghostbusters, were okay, but I don't know. I don't know if this movie's going to be any better either, to be honest with you. I don't feel particularly confident about this film. But I think that the curiosity factor as to whether or not Rick Moranis still has that comedic ability is going to help the film a lot. I think everyone is going to want to see if he's still got it. And so I think a lot of people will tune in. I think people are really going to pay attention to the trailer. It's going to be a really big deal. But it's very exciting. So he's coming back. That's a very, very big deal. If this movie can put Rick Moranis back on the board, his children, of course, are grown up now, that would be incredible. If you've never seen a Rick Moranis movie, I highly recommend checking them out. As I Don't Care Bear said, shout out for The Little Shop of Horrors. He, of course, was in that movie musical. He was in the original Ghostbusters. He is, and Spaceballs. He's really an incredible comedian. All right, so, yes, the original cast are coming back, and I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Gad will be taking over the John Candy role. And then they've added some new talent. They've added Louis Pullman, hot off of Marvel. I know you guys got so excited. It was clearly a very good idea. And yet maybe he'll be making fun of Chris Pratt. Maybe he can get Chris Pratt to show up for a cameo, which would be really funny. So I think that's great that he's playing his own, Bill Pullman's own son will be playing his son. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But I'm particularly also very happy, that's right, Faye, for Miss Keke Palmer. This is incredible for her. Keke Palmer's also had a little bit of a rough time, and a lot of people felt she didn't get the boost that she should have from Nope. But sometimes it just takes a little while. She had that Just One of Them Days, that movie that came out earlier this year that did extremely well. Not extremely well, but it did very well for being a smaller film. So that was very exciting. She's in the upcoming Eddie Murphy, Pete Davidson comedy that's coming up. but also she's going to be in this movie. I agree, Leonardo. She's very funny. I think Keke Palmer is very funny. I think she'll be great here. But I also think that it'll give this movie some much-needed diversity in the main cast. Maybe she'll be playing a take on Gamora if you think he's Star-Lord. Wouldn't that be interesting if you have Star-Lord and Gamora? That would be really interesting. But, you know, the original Spaceballs didn't have a lot of diversity, but I think to have Keke Palmer not only in this movie, but as the female lead and possible romantic interest to Lewis Pullman's character, I think that's going to really help the movie. It's a great role for her. It's very, very exciting. So that's phenomenal. Then what I wanted to touch on was the fact that Amazon is indeed beginning to mine the MGM library. And they're able to get, some very hard to reach, goodies. They brought Bond on board with full control after writing a $1 billion check to the Broccoli's. And now they've actually managed to make Spaceballs 2 happen. I wonder maybe they threw a lot of money around here too. Maybe they're like, Rick Moranis, we're just going to keep writing a new number until you tell us to stop. Or say yes, right? And then, I'm sure maybe they paid Mel Brooks a decent amount of money as well. I think maybe it would be wonderful if they made fun of just franchise filmmaking. I think that would help the film a lot. I think if it just made fun of Star Wars, I think, as many of you have said, people are already doing that. And I think maybe it could come across as mean-spirited because Star Wars is really having a tough time. But I think it would be wonderful if the tone of the teaser trailer was the tone of the film, particularly because the teaser trailer is so funny. But I don't know how many people are going to like these jokes. Let's see. People don't love industry content. I think the studio is very highly regarded, but I don't know what its viewership is. The HBO show got canceled, the franchise. So does anybody have any questions or comments about this story before we move on to the next one? That's right, Dancing Dog 60. Robot Chicken was hilarious, and maybe I would try and get some of their writers as well. Mr. Andrews, I'm very curious to see if it goes to theaters or if it becomes a Prime Video exclusive. Again, I think they'll probably wait to see how good it is. Madav says, Grace, someone asked, do people like parody movies anymore? Oh, people always love a good parody. There's a lot of them on YouTube. I always enjoy Pitch Meeting and How It Should Have Ended. I think those are hilarious. Mika says, what's your favorite spoof movie? I really liked Spy. Melissa McCarthy's Spy spoof movie. I thought that was hilarious. That's the one that comes to mind first. Enter Fernand. I think most people will be watching for Rick Moranis, Keke Palmer, and I do feel Lewis Pullman after so many people liked him in Thunderbolts. Another Wanda Stan says, hey Grace, do you think they'll poke fun at Dune? I don't know if those jokes would hit, to be honest with you. They did poke a little fun at Dune. They just said that 2 Dune movies had come out since Spaceballs had been released. Oh, Oliver, enjoy The Materialists. I just posted my review about an hour ago. I know that's a little close to this live stream, but I wanted to catch you guys on Friday afternoon in case you might have wanted to see it. Airplane is very funny. I think I haven't seen Airplane, I think, in a very long time, or even, I don't think I've ever watched Airplane all the way through, actually. But I'm a fan of Family Guy and their spoofs, and I am looking forward to the next movie. Yuvraj says, do you think there will be a Rey and Kylo dig? I don't know. Oh, that's a good point that Elliot just said, that Rick Moranis was going to come back for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which had Josh Gad in it. Yeah, that's right. They might have developed a relationship. That's a great catch. And maybe that helped talk him into doing this. Cool Guy says, Grace, I have to say I could totally see you in a pitch meeting sketch. Thank you very much. That's very complimentary. I appreciate that. I think those are hilarious. Emma Rod says, anybody remember Cody Banks? Paul Giamatti was in that. Didn't he turn blue? I remember that. Atmosphere, I wouldn't say, I don't know. Obviously, everybody's the judge for whether or not they find something offensive. But yeah, I think you have to be a lot more careful in the comedy space these days. But I think it's a pendulum effect, and I think it's swinging back a little bit in the opposite direction. I think Scary Movie's pretty funny. So let's do a poll as to whether or not you're going to watch this. I know you guys like a poll. Will you watch Spaceballs 2. Yes, I hope in theaters. Excited to stream. Then need to see a trailer. And then not interested. Happy Friday, Angela! By the way, anyone who's watching can vote in a poll. You don't have to be a member to vote in a poll. That's right, Police Academy, Ryan. That's a good one as well. You know, parody movies have been around for a long time. And Yavrov says that Spaceballs was weaker than Young Frankenstein or Blazing Saddles. I would actually agree with that. I think that's true, but it just happens to be based on an IP. So that's why it's coming back. But yes, Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles are, I think, you know, I mean, you guys talk about low-hanging fruit, and I think that's a lot of what Spaceballs was. They made fun of sci-fi things in general. That's where the alien burst out of someone's stomach and then did a dance routine on top of the diner. That's from Spaceballs. Juan Gabriel says, Brenda and Cindy from Scary Movie. Now that's a dynamic duo. Dancing Dog 60 just wants a good laugh. That's great. Oh, Charlie's Flicks Fix. I'll be interested to see if you like Young Frankenstein anymore now. Okay, look for the Gene Hackman cameo. Okay, so the poll results are 33% of you, a third of you would like to see it in theaters. 29% of you aren't totally sold, whereas 18% will stream it, and only 18% of you are not at all interested. That's pretty good. I'll be curious to see what the budget on this is. Steven, I think there was something about Scary Movie coming back. I don't remember. Okay, let's boop to Mr. Miracle Oasis, and then we'll get to Toy Story. Okay, let's boop it on out of here. Story number 2. Boop! All right, so there's a lot of animation headlines today, or recently this week, and they'll be going through the weekend, because it's the Annecy Animation Festival in France, and so they're having a lot of headlines and announcements. In fact, there will be more Mr. Miracle information later today. Maybe it's already come out, because France is like 6 hours ahead of us. But DC Animation, Warner Brothers Animation, did have a panel at the convention. A terrible idea, Faye. That's interesting. Okay, so let's talk about it. I have to say, when I saw this news, it did make me feel that James Gunn, as I said yesterday, is a true comic book fan. Because many comic book fans have been saying, when is Mr. Miracle going to be made into a TV show? I wasn't expecting it to be an animated one, to be honest with you. We'll talk about that. But I think everybody is pretty excited about this because the comic itself is so strong. So I think that this is a very nice thing for James Gunn to make him look like he really knows what he's talking about when it comes to comic books. Now, he really likes Tom King. Tom King is not only, he's borrowing a lot from Tom King's stories. So Supergirl is based on Tom King's Woman of Tomorrow. Tom King is one of the architects of James Gunn's DC, who James Gunn is asking for information, to be an advisor. And Tom King is a very controversial comic book writer. I will say, though, that I will buy pretty much anything that Tom King writes. I don't expect to necessarily like it, and he's very dialogue heavy. I've even seen some comic books make jokes about that because, it's just sometimes just words when you turn the page. And you're like, this is a visual medium. And Tom King says, not today. But I think they put him on great titles. He's very good at reworking things and coming up with interesting ideas. I think he always kind of runs out of steam a little bit, but he's really good. I think he had his Batman and Catwoman relationship exploration was excellent. Until then he had Catwoman leave Batman at the altar. And everyone got really upset about that. And I think he's still kind of a little bit in the doghouse because of that today. That is Tom King. That's Tom King. I think he comes from a military background. He's currently writing Wonder Woman, which I think is pretty good. Sometimes it's not good. I got to tell you, though, Tom King stuff is at least always interesting. Even if I don't enjoy it or if I think it's a little boring, I still always pick up the next issue. I've never not picked up a Tom King comic, even when I think the series isn't good. I'm like, maybe the next one will be good because I think he's that strong a writer. but I don't know how commercial a writer that he is. All right, so he wrote Mr. Miracle. He's a little bit like Jonathan Hickman as a writer. You know, I think you can kind of see the kind of comic books that James Gunn likes by the writers that he's drawn to and the source material that he's pulling from. Like, I think he's leaning a little too heavily into Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman. And a lot of people like All-Star Superman, but a lot of people don't. And we'll see how that works out for him. I mean, again, as I said, I would not have picked, All-Star Superman as the main. I would have built off of Superman for all seasons. But yes, that's right. Tom King, I think he appeals to women more so than some other comic book writers because I think he writes good women. But also, I would also like to point out that Tom King has always paired with amazing illustrators. It's the Mark Millar trick from back in the day. Mark Millar would always make sure that he had an amazing illustrator that he was working with because art sells comics. It's a visual medium. And Tom King, I've never seen him paired with a bad artist. Every artist he's ever had is incredible. So you're like, no matter what, you're at least guaranteed like a medium level of time. Wonder Woman fans hate him. Really? I don't think the Wonder Woman comic's that bad. Although, I just picked up Trinity, which is, he does sell comics. He is definitely a name in the comic book industry. But I picked up Trinity this week, which is the story of of Wonder Woman's daughter. And while I've liked Trinity in the backup stories in the Wonder Woman comics, this was almost an unreadable comic, the new Trinity. It was just awful. It was so bad. He has this idea that, it's called Trinity because she carries 3 lassos. Who can carry 3 lassos? I think that's ridiculous. But then he's talking with 3 versions of herself, toddler, preteen, I think full-blown teenager, young adult. And I'm like, just tell me a story, Tom. But I will pick up the next issue. All right, that's right. The art on Mr. Miracle was incredible. And Big Barda was a big part of this comic. It very much explored their romance and marriage as refugees from Apocalypse, Darkseid's planet, or Darkseid. I really think it's an incredible comic. It sags a little bit in the middle or towards the end, but it gets amazing afterwards. So who is Mr. Miracle? Oace doesn't know who Mr. Miracle is. Mr. Miracle is an escape artist. He's a human escape artist. He doesn't really have any superpowers, which is why Barda was always looking out for him. And he's an escape artist named Scott Free, that's right, who was raised, I would love it if the female Furies were in here. He was raised on Apocalypse, and then he and Big Barda escaped to Earth, and they're refugees, but they're often used as good guys with inside information on Apocalypse. So I gotta tell you, I think all of us envision this as an HBO show. And I agree with Wanda's attorney that Big Barda will be the sell here. Big Barda, Katie O'Brien, get on your phone to your agent right now. Or Gwendolyn Christie. Maybe even Gwendolyn Christie's a little bit better because of the height. But Gwendolyn Christie should be, I guess she'd have to, but this is live act, this is animated. Poop. So it doesn't matter who's playing the character. It's because it's going to be animated. I think it's a disappointment that it's not live action. It's a very adult story, and it's not a particularly funny or exciting story. It's really dramatic. So I don't really think that animation is the greatest place for it, to be honest with you. But we'll take what we can get. I just feel very bad that it's not animated, really bad. I think it's a missed opportunity, but they're not going to do it. I think that there would be a lot of VFX involved, but whatever. They're doing a Green Lantern show, but we have a sneaking suspicion they might not be doing a lot of lanterning. All right, so I think it should be. I am always begging for adult animation, Faye. That's a great point, but I feel like this is not a good place for this story, and I'm looking for adult animation right now. My current wishy wish is for adult animation on the big screen. And also, I think one of the reasons maybe I'm a little off of it at the moment, Faye, is that I've watched so much bad adult animation. The War of the Rohirrim was awful, and I'm very unhappy with Harley Quinn Season 4. I didn't even bother to review it. I thought it really lost its way. I think, it just turned into a show about a couple, and even though I love them as a couple, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy have ceased to be individual characters. And I thought the Poison Ivy's origin story was really rushed. I really hated it. See, Asami agrees. Thank you, Faye. Yeah. So, well, Ivan liked it. So check it out for yourself. But I watched the whole thing. Also, I was very disappointed that Giancarlo Esposito dropped out as voicing Lex Luthor. That really bothered me. All right, so they do have a lot of DC adult animation these days. They didn't mention Harley Quinn here in this lineup because that's not a DC Studios show. But of course, Creature Commandos, which never charted, and then they have upcoming animated projects, Starfire, My Adventures as Green Lantern, to go with My Adventures as Superman, and then also DC Superpowers, which I believe is a high school-based show. I don't know, Invincible. Yes, Mike, Invincible is incredible. That's great adult animation. I'm a big fan of Invincible. But I don't really know. I mean, this is a lot of shows. I worried about Mr. Miracle getting lost in the shuffle. And I got to tell you, Harley Quinn doesn't trend. None of these shows get into, they get largely ignored, which is also something that scares me about Mr. Miracle being an animated show. I worry that it's going to slip through the cracks. But if it was a live action show on HBO, it would be something that more people talked about, which is so that's why I get a little frustrated. All right, but then as I said yesterday, where's all the animation aimed at kids? I feel like, as we said yesterday, that's what makes future DC fans, kids animation and kids comics. And I think that DC has really moved away from that because kids aren't vocal in the spaces anymore. You didn't used to interact with the audience to the same degree that you do today. And as a result, I think kids are kind of getting lost. That's right. The Teen Titans show is still very popular, but that's a weird one because Teen Titans is so strong in terms of its vibe that it's almost competing with comics, where adult fans go, whoa, I don't want that over in my adult DC stories. I think it's important to have content for younger audiences that matches the adult content. Yuvraj, everybody better leave Barda alone. I haven't seen any toxicity about this, although I wouldn't put it past anybody at this point. It's been rough on the internet the past 48 hours. Okay. So that's my thoughts on this. Oh, Arcane was incredible. I just wish this was live action. So does anybody have any questions or comments about this before we get to the next story of the day? Oh, that's right, Psycho. Thank you for the reminder. Batman Cape Crusader. I loved Batman Cape Crusader, but really not many people talked about that either. That, of course, is not officially James Gunn's DC. That's Matt Reeves and J.J. Abrams, and they sold that out to Amazon Prime. Hey, Esteban, thanks for joining. Mr. Miracle, Big League Chew, I don't know if I think he comes from the world of the new god. He's not a new god. Because I think, we see, that's so generous of you, thank you. I think that he's a human. What I recall is that Mr. Miracle is a human, but who grew up on Apocalypse. That's right, Faye. I think we have two great Bardas, Katie O'Brien or Gwendolyn Christie. I think Katie O'Brien would be the best of the two, but I'd be happy with either one. But it doesn't matter because it's not going to be live action. By the way, Tom King will be, that's right, Eric. Eric reminded me. That's right. So he's, you're right. Thank you. It's been a while since I read Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle is the son of the High Father of the New God. So he is a new god. He doesn't really seem to have any powers, though. He's very vulnerable. But yeah, they swapped children, like they did in olden days, right? So it was kind of like their way to have peace between their two kingdoms. So that's right. Orion is the son of Darkseid, but Orion is with the good guys, but that's why he's got crazy eyes and eyebrows. And then Mr. Miracle grew up on Darkseid's planet. But I don't recall him having any superpowers. I guess maybe he's a little less vulnerable, but I remember him spending a lot of the story of the Mr. Miracle comic all beaten up. So Atom Sphere, I wouldn't spend $50 on it. I would just read it regularly. If you're into collecting omnibuses, I guess so. But let's see. He has good reflexes. That's right. And he's a nice guy. Barda loves him. Okay. Mr. Andrews, there's no release date. Well, at least there wasn't as of this filming. They did say they were going to release more details at today's panel. Although it's already 9 o'clock over there. Let's see if there's been anything. I don't see any headlines about it right now. All right. Okay, the panel was supposed to be today. Let's see. Pope Gunn did say that live action and animation would be connected, so it would be great if they cast voice actors that could jump to live action. And they did cast actors that could play the roles later. That would be great. Hey, Madav. Thanks for staying up so late for the stream. Klaus, I know a lot of people aren't familiar with Mr. Miracle, but I think this is a really great comic. I think people will like the story. Hey, Leonardo, thank you. All right, you guys are just telling me what time it is where you are. Doesn't bode well for Mr. Miracle's future. Okay. Who's the father of Wonder Woman's child? Steve Trevor. Who they had a good tease at the end of the Trinity comic, so you might want to pick it up. All right. Boom, baby. That's right. Oh, hold on. I have a better picture. Oh, I forgot to load it. There it is. Behold, the villain of Toy Story 5. This little tablet called Lilypad. You can see it's a frog. So it's a female villain. They keep saying her. So they announced today at the Pixar panel that Lilypad will be the villain of Toy Story 5. And they actually even gave a little synopsis. So it starts out saying, Lilypad is a high-tech tablet with endless entertainment at her digital fingertips, games, videos, learning apps, and more. Unlike the handmade toys that Bonnie once cherished, Lilypad offers instant engagement with no need for imagination, friends, or storytelling. It's a toy that doesn't require other toys at all. But there's more. This sets up the film's central conflict. The classic toys, led by Woody and Buzz Lightyear, are cast aside as Bonnie becomes increasingly absorbed in screen time. I don't like Bonnie either, Eric. What begins as jealousy and confusion among the toys soon reveals a larger concern. Bonnie is growing more distant, less creative, and isolated. Is Pixar going to have an animated therapist? Because, the toys aren't really going to save you. I don't know how Woody got there, but I am happy that Joan Cusack's Jessie is back, and we're going to talk about that. Now, to me, what's interesting, oh, that's right, Leapfrog. That's funny, Big League Chew. So kids and technology. I'm very sad myself about what I see happening with kids and technology. I think it is great for kids to feel comfortable around technology and be good at using it. But I get sad when I'm at restaurants and I see children on iPads instead of engaging either with their siblings or friends or their parents. I feel it's just, I don't know, I feel bad that they're, not in the moment. They could be anywhere watching that video. And it's not fun to be around either. I told you I had a story where I was sitting in a restaurant and someone let their child turn on their iPad behind me at full volume. And I was like, oh yeah, and that's right, SpongeBob on some kid's phone in the movie theater when we weren't in a SpongeBob movie. That was during Paddington. And some dad, his kid didn't want to watch Paddington, I guess. And so they decided to watch SpongeBob at full volume in the theater. I mean, it's just awful, okay? So I think that it is a real problem. And in fact, not just for kids, like little kids, but even for teenagers and, et cetera. There are lots of states that are trying to pass bills that don't allow you to have a cell phone in school because they feel that it's distracting and it allows for you to cheat. So they're trying to get rid of that. But they're meeting a lot of resistance, not only from tech companies, obviously, but from parents and kids who don't want to give up their phones. Now, Connor, for instance, just said, let's not judge parenting styles. Now that's something I think that Pixar is not thinking of. I think there's a very good chance that while, a lot of people would say that Pixar is right to address this, I feel that there will be a number of parents who Disney needs to go and see this movie who will feel attacked. I Don't Care Bear says, I want Toy Story, not a PSA, right? And will Leapfrog decide to sue them? I mean, it's pretty damning that Pixar is basically making one big movie about how damaging Lilypad is, or Leapfrog, or whatever. What's it called? That's a company, and Pixar is making an entire movie about how detrimental that is to kids. But I have to say, I think it's also Disney's got a lot of nerve considering the fact that Disney Plus is a babysitting service. We all know it. That's what Disney Plus is largely used for. It's turned on in the background, and it's just left on all day. And I think that's one of the strengths of Disney Plus. It is the babysitting service of choice. So I'm really shocked that they would allow a movie that said that was bad. It's like, oh yeah, stop spending less time on, don't spend so much time online. Wait a minute. I mean, didn't they just buy Fortnite, which is a babysitting service for adults? If it's bad for kids, it's probably bad for adults, right? So this is just a very odd a position to take. And I do see it. I really think that, as Connor said, don't judge people's parenting styles, and some people get very defensive if you say, maybe your kid shouldn't be on an iPad when they're at dinner. I think that you don't know what people's situations are, right? And I think it's very judgmental to say you can just easily take that away and turn it off, right? And I think, you have to be really careful about getting involved in people's personal lives. So I think that Disney, and people are just itching for a reason to fight with Disney these days. So if Disney looks to be saying that they're, coming after the way people parent, I can see that being a huge problem. What are you going to do? Are families going to go and see this movie? And what are they going to, is it going to be awkward when they leave? And they're like, do you want your tablet back? Didn't we just watch for 2 hours or an hour and 45 minutes how this thing is ruining your mind? You want it back? And then Disney's like, here, you want your Disney themed apps? And Leonardo says, what about the fact that a lot of kids will watch this on an iPad? That's a great point. That's a really clever point. And I think there's a very good chance that this could blow up in Disney's face. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out. I'm glad Jessie's back. You can see her right there. Hold on. There she is. Woohoo. Looking at this thing being like, oh, I'm upset with you. But yeah, so she will be back after taking a break in Toy Story 4. So yeah, so we'll see what happens. I think the fact that they seem to be going very dark as well. It's one thing to say, hey man, maybe you should play with different toys. Maybe you should mix it up a little bit. But instead they're like, no, it's ruining Bonnie's life. And I have to tell you, I think a lot of viewers don't like Bonnie. I actually have never met anyone. I'm sure someone here will say I do, and that's great. But I don't think Bonnie was it was great to switch it to a girl character. Although I don't like that she plays so differently with the toys. I don't know. I think it's, yes. When I was growing up, my action figures would fight, but then they would have a big dance afterwards. It was the after fight dance. And so I think it's fine to to expand the way you play with toys, but I don't like limiting the way girls play with toys and making it. Maybe most of them do, but I don't know. I like there to be more creative thought. I don't like the stereotype that every little girl wants to have a tea party. I never had a tea party growing up. Jessie was in 4, but not in a big way, KP Productions. They replaced her with Bo Peep. Dancing Dog 60 had Barbie date G.I. Joe. That's right. That's why the Barbie movie was so funny. Because everybody knows that Barbie dates toys from outside the Barbie line. She doesn't date Ken. She dates G.I. Joe. She dates, just whatever doll that you get from some other company. That's right, Juan Carlos. I guess I do have a tea party these days, serving the tea. Oh yeah, He-Man, good dating option as well. Her short king. Oasis, no question, just expressing my excitement. Toy Story, Marvel, The Last of Us, and this channel are the reasons that for my love of movies. Oasis, I'm so honored to be included there. Thank you so much, particularly after I didn't so much care for The Last of Us Season 2. So that means even more to me. Thank you, The Alchemist. What's the poll on the best Toy Story? That's a good idea. We will do a Toy Story poll. What is the best Toy Story movie? I won't say until you guys vote, because I don't want to sway it. I'm honored that you guys think I sway the poll. Okay. Although Dobby points out, we do know that teens and beyond early 20s seem to have forgotten or never learned how to interact amongst themselves, and it's very sad. Yeah, that is true. I think that's very true. But I think there has to be a different way to go about this. It's perhaps a little bit more sensitive. I'm glad to see how you guys all played with your toys differently. I love it. You guys, anyone who was watching, again, anyone who's watching can vote in a poll. You don't have to be a member to vote in the poll. Ken in 3 is fantastic, Paul. I loved Ken. And, Michael Keaton's Ken, he was fantastic. Doc Hayes, you've only ever seen the first movie? You've got some watching to do. All right, I'm going to close it. All right, let's see. All right. Buck's Basement says, I actually think this is a very smart concept because we know how much technology has affected kids nowadays. Yeah, but Disney is so responsible for so much of that AI. I think it's a weird position for them to be in. Okay, 40% of you think that the second movie was the best. 31% of you think it was the third film. 23% of you think it was the first, but only 3% of you think the fourth film was the best. Yeah, I really actually disliked 3 and 4 quite a bit. I really disliked 4. Infamously so to some people. To me, 1 is still the best. Although I have a friend who just loves Jessie, so I guess I always like 2 for that reason as well. Steven says, I want a Tiana show instead of having 7. Yeah, I really wish they hadn't shelved that Tiana show. Dobby, I'm glad your Barbies led a full life. Oh, Leonardo, good for you, admitting you voted for 4. I'm glad you liked it. All right, Madav wants to move to Ask Me Anything. Okay, I think you guys are ready for that. All right. Oh, it'll still come in an hour. Ah, that's great. It always works out. All right, 10 minutes of Ask Me Anything. Keith says, will they ever do Nemo 3? If they come up with a story for it, I mean, sequels have been working out very well for Pixar. I'm sure they're considering all of them. Oh, RPW, you had a twin? You played with Star Wars figures? That's awesome. Poke says, do you think it's good for Disney to have 3 animated movies next year with 2 from Pixar? Do they have 3 animated movies next year? Are you sure? 2 of them from Pixar? I mean, let's see. I don't think they have a animated movie set for Christmas for Thanksgiving next year, do they? Let's see here. Paul says, what do you think of the other Pixar film that was announced from the Luca? Oh, yes, there was another Pixar film that was announced. It also takes place in a lovely Italian fishing village, and this is about a female cat who works for the mob. I mean, if it can be like American Dog, the movie that Chris Sanders wanted to make about a dog who was involved with the criminal element, that would be kind of fun. But I don't see that making a lot of money. It seems kind of small to me, but I mean, I reserve the right to change my mind once I see how it comes together. I don't know if you have like, and also I don't know about it being a female cat with the mob. I feel like that's going to turn a lot of people off. That makes me a little nervous. But I mean, I'm not saying I won't necessarily like it. Stephen Turner says, do you think Tron is DOA with Jared Leto? I don't think it was in a good position to begin with. I think people don't like Jared Leto. You know, I think the allegations against him are very serious. Everyone, of course, is innocent until proven guilty. But his box office has been very poor, and he's not been able to get attention for things. I would have paid him. I told you that I felt the reason Jared Leto was still in Tron Ares is because he had a pay or play deal. So if they didn't, oh, it's a boy cat? I thought it was a female cat. Well, then that maybe might work a little bit better. But anyway, pay or play deal means that if you don't do the film, they still have to pay you what the payday was. So it was probably considerable for Jared Leto because he signed it close to when he got his Oscar for that deal, and when he was in a much better position career-wise. But I honestly would have just paid him and not have had him in the movie. Let's see here. Oh, the mob boss is a woman. Okay, so in this new Pixar movie, the drama follows a black cat named Nero who lives in Venice, indebted to a feline mob boss. Oh, maybe it's just a cat. He is forged to. Oh, so it's like. Well, let's see how feline. I mixed feline with feminine. Connor says tips for getting into comic book writing. It's very difficult, Connor. Comic books are a business of who you know. So I highly recommend that you go to comic book conventions and you introduce yourself to editors. That's how you're going to get your foot in the door. But they're going to want to see that you've done some work. So either write your own comic or see if you can write for a smaller publisher. A lot of the smaller publishers have unfortunately gone out of business, so it's harder and harder to get work these days. Do not write one of their titles, okay? Don't go to a Batman editor and say, here's my Batman comic that I wrote, because they won't be able to read it because you might sue them. So you have to write an original idea if it's self-published. Hey, Rashad, I'm glad you made the Q&A. Let's see here. I did see the Tron. Jacob was #1 on Nielsen. I'm going to talk about that on Movie Math on Sunday. On Monday. Movie Math will actually be on Monday because of Father's Day. We changed our plans. So I'm going to cover it on Monday. And so we'll talk about it then. I need stuff for Movie Math. Sneaky says, if both Doomsday and Secret Wars comes in under expectations, what will be the first major shift we see at Marvel? I think you're going to see, everybody knows. I don't need to say it. I think you're going to see, let's just say, I think you're going to see change. Amika says, do you think The Incredibles 3 should be split into 2 parts? No. I applaud your thinking outside the box, but I think that animation is too hard to pivot with, or anything is. When you shoot something back to back, it's very hard to change it if there are problems. Also, you leave people hanging for too long. Look at what's happened with Spider-Man, the latest Spider-Man, Spider-Verse movies. Those were supposed to be back to back, but instead it's been years between the 2 films, even though they're supposed to be the same story. So, and also we have a new director. So I wouldn't saddle Peter Sohn with that. Particularly, what if he doesn't deliver? Then I'm going to have another movie directed by Peter Sohn in the can that nobody wants to see? Keneal says, do you think a Latino actor for Bond could work? I'd be open to it. I think you have more luck changing the ethnicity of the characters around Bond. And I've always said that Felix from the CIA, who's typically been a black character, I would expand his role, and I think that would help. But we'll see what they decide to do. I really think Amy Pascal and David Heyman are a good choice to run that. Faye, I saw quotes from the Charlie Cox and Joe Locke interview. I thought that they were very charming, and I thought Joe Locke was particularly funny and insightful in some of his comments. Bubbles says, do you think July will be a multi-billion-dollar month? I think it's unlikely, to be honest with you. I think the only movie that has a chance of hitting $1 billion is Superman. Especially after that way the Jurassic World Rebirth trailer was just lowballed in the tracking. I think that Superman is the only movie that has a chance at $1 billion. And I don't know if any movie's going to get to $1 billion so far. I think Lilo and Stitch is going to be hurt by How to Train Your Dragon, which is coming out of the gate like gangbusters. It did extremely well last night. So I think that's going to have an effect. I mean, look, Lilo and Stitch only cost $100 million. Disney's not going to cry, but it's going to sting a little if it doesn't get $1 billion. Oasis, thoughts on the How to Train Your Dragon press tour? I can see Nico Parker and Mason Thames becoming big stars. They're both very charismatic. Yeah, I think they're fantastic. But the best press tour right now is The Materialists. I'm really impressed with how much Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, and Chris Evans have done to promote that film, and I think it's working. I've been checking ticket sales to see how to Train Your Dragon is doing, and when I take a sneak peek at Materialists, those theaters are pretty full. Buck's Basement says, it does seem new Toy Story film is targeting values held by conservatives, aka technology ruining kids. Do conservatives necessarily feel that way? I think everybody and all groups sometimes has technology with the kids. Salmon Hotspot says, do you think Avatar 3 trailer is on the new horizon? I think you probably might get a teaser in front of Fantastic Four and also therefore with Comic-Con maybe. But that doesn't come out till late December, so I think you're not going to see something till end of summer at the earliest. Elise, I'm glad I reminded you about Father's Day. Yes, everybody, celebrate your papa on this Sunday. At least give the guy a call if you can, if you're lucky enough to still have your dad around in your life, and maybe get him a gift. I got my dad a nice shirt and some socks. Father's Day. It's tough to shop for Father's Day, but I think he's going to like them. The socks say Super Dad, and I think he's going to like them. Don't tell my dad what I got him for Father's Day. Okay. Adam Sphere says, what country would you like to visit next? I would very much like to go to Japan. It's very far away, and it's a huge commitment. I just went to London. You can't go on these... You can't take big trips all the time. You got to like save up for them and then eventually go. But that's what I do. But I mean, I had a wonderful time in London and Paris, for Paris Disneyland, but I need to save up again to go to Japan. And I would very much like to. I like all the dad gifts that I'm seeing. Dad gifts, dad gifts. Let's see here. Elliot says, what's my Mount Rushmore of Marilyn Monroe movies? You mean like the best one? Obviously, How to Marry a Millionaire. And Some Like It Hot. But I don't think she's as good in that one. I think that How to Marry a Millionaire is a great movie. And I think that it's peak Marilyn Monroe, in my opinion. Kay Walton, you were in Japan. I'm so jealous. Oh, Doc Hayes, I'm so sorry to hear you have COVID, but good for you for protecting your dad. Oh, let's see here. You guys are so cute. You think my dad? He watches my videos. He likes movie math, but I don't think he's gonna watch a stream. Let's see here. My dad isn't as tech savvy as you guys. I mean, I'm his IT support, just to give you an idea of my dad's tech savviness. I'm considered a computer expert compared to my dad. We have a rough time because he's on Microsoft, and I don't know anything about Microsoft, so I do a lot of Googling. And I made a mistake the other day, but we fixed it. Never go into the belly of the computer. That's right, I'm a Mac user. It's extremely difficult, but somebody has to do it. Elliot, I'm glad I was helpful. That's right, Chico. I like everybody on the leaderboard. Elise is number 2. Dan says, how far in advance did we know that Barbie was going to make $1 billion? Oh, thank you, Jordan. That's very kind of you. I'm not sure. I think you can sense when a movie's slowing down. And we'll see how hard Lilo and Stitch is hit this weekend by How to Train Your Dragon. Let's see. All right, it's been 10 minutes. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining me for today's live stream. I have a great time with you, as always. Please, my Materialists review is up right now. Then on Sunday, even though there's no movie math because of Father's Day, I do have a special fun little video planned for you that will go up as a placeholder. And then movie math will be on Monday. All right, everyone, see you soon.